Mining is at the forefront of technology adoption, and while the industry is still making progress to it, it's now time to take stock of where we are in relation to the mining industry and where technology fits in. For more, we are joined by Ricardo. Ricardo, thank you so much for your time. I mean, I was talking about, mining and technology, but if you had to think about what are some of the barriers that we're not seeing that mining, rather the technology adoption when it comes to the mining industry, what are they?
Hi, Stasha. Nice to be here today, and thank you for the opportunity. As you can imagine, mining's been going through a whole lot of geopolitical challenges, going through a whole lot of climate challenges and commodity price variation. So in addition to that context, you also have to look at some of these mines are quite old. They're legacy mines, old equipment, so that makes it quite challenging as well. On top of that, it requires large capital investments up front, which these capital investments, unless if there's predictability, is quite easy, but when there isn't, it also makes it a lot more challenging. That compounded by skilling, because obviously with new technologies come a high degree of skilling. It's new skills, new ways of thinking, and new capabilities people need to have. So that creates a challenge. That also, mines are faced with challenges between balancing that investment between what they're doing from a kind of technology investment and in terms of capability and equipment against sustainable. So they also have to balance that because they're living in the real world in that context. So if you start to look at those variables, you start to realize that a lot of those create challenges for them to actually kind of adopt technology. And then connectivity. All aged equipment means maybe there's old connectivity. And I mean, not all Africans have access. In fact, only 40% have access to the internet. So that kind of creates a challenge in terms of being able to push forward modernization challenges. And obviously, we as Microsoft are looking to invest, through our A-band project, trying to bring 100 million people across Africa on board to try and create connectivity by kind of connecting Wi-Fi, so to speak, and creating a much better accessibility. Because unless you bring communities into the digital age, they need to learn that skill, be able to work with it, and really kind of embrace it from a day-to-day, so it becomes part of the culture and it becomes an adaptive. And that brings also the kind of regulatory piece also needs to be opened up because the regulations vary across the continent and it's a different regulations allow different digital technologies to be used in different formats. So that kind of storm creates, it means that mining houses really have to push into a resistance. Obviously, we're working with them and helping them do it, but I think we need to all partner. I think so. The message out of that is it is a real opportunity for us to all partner to try and overcome those dimensions that exist there. Thank you.
What progress are you making when you work with those mining industries? I mean, are they receptive to all of the assistance you're offering as Microsoft when it comes to tech and AI adoption? What's it like on the other side?
It's actually, in fact, I actually feel like the mining industry is pulling us. And it's because initially, and I come out of a banking environment myself historically, and if you look in a bank, the banks traditionally, they kind of data-rich environment, and they have your transactional data makes it the correlation between investment and the outcome very easy to do. In a mining house, those investments have to be bigger. Your time to a mine operation can be 10, 15 years. Sometimes you're getting a mine live and fully production. So these long lead times means that they also need to understand where this technology will come from. However, I'm seeing the other. They are really pulling us. They're saying, bring the technology, help us drive our operational technologies to be much better in terms of the way we plan our mines, the way we run our mines, the way we manage our production or manufacturing capabilities, but also help us with health and safety. How do we stop somebody walking into an area without the necessary glasses or the safety hat? AI can pick that up. So they adopt because they realize, wow, we can save lives, we can drive productivity, we have less downtime. So there's a real pool of them trying to actually adopt this technology, and they're doing a really good job, and we've seen some really great successes in that.
We'll come to the successes in a bit, but building on what you just said, what's the conversation like for mining companies that perhaps are in areas that are resource rich, but infrastructure poor, where there are infrastructure deficits? Is that need for technology and AI still there, or do they want to focus on fixing the infrastructure aspects? I mean, how do they balance that?
So I think it's a balance between that and the environmental considerations, obviously, because often these rich areas, cobalt in DRC, is kind of 70% of the world's cobalt sits in there. So you have some areas where it's very rich, but it's remote, connectivity needs to be there. So I think my kind of thoughts around that is that they really need to think about how do they leverage capital globally, because there are massive capital around public-private partnerships. How do they open that to create the roads and infrastructure and create the accessibility to those resources? Because if you can get the flow and the demand right, the capital comes in. And so, but with that, you also need to draw on the financial access to the banks who have bonds or instruments to help you with either projects or the actual mining in itself and exploration. So that piece also they need to think about. And then there's so many global skilling programs. I mean, we as Microsoft have made a commitment that we will train 1 million people by 2026 in kind of technology literacy, because we see the massive need. And there are many other organizations do these things. Let's leave each other to give them that skill, give them access to people, empower those people, because if they have the power, and often it's kind of the evolution of, as a race, electricity transformed us as humans in terms of being able to take unstructured materials in the ground, convert it into steel, which became the high-rise building we're sitting in today, and the car we drove here on the way here. AI is doing the same, but in terms of unstructured data, unstructured process, images, even videos, giving people, and when people see the power of that, they start to realize these things can help them be more productive, achieve high outcomes with low risk to failure. So I think it's for those minds is creating awareness, and giving access to capital, giving but skilling is going to be critical, and work with the regulators to create, in those environments, simpler regulations for them to operate in. Because without those regulations, it's hard. They then resisting everything else. So I think our role needs to be kind of advocates for this transformation, helping organizations embrace it. Because the more they embrace it, the more we're going to get impact. And I think our continent needs it. It's a great resource pool. Let's help them.
Let me check this. 1 million people by 2026.
Yes.
We're in 2025. How far are you with that goal? Are you close to surpassing it?
So we launched it at our AR. In fact, we launched it at our AR kind of tour, just 2 weeks ago. So really, it's something we've prioritized as an organization. We're thinking about it for a long time. So massive. And you must remember, Microsoft has a massive partner network. In fact, we're one of the biggest in terms of hyperscalers. We have a very strong partner network. And I think that's where we're going to get the power. And we also empower a lot of small organizations, startup organizations. We have to push that through our ecosystem, because that's where the multiple are going to come. Myself, as Ricardo, can't go and train 1 million people. But if we use our partner network and use all the institutions that exist, with ICT training institutions, universities, and we empower them to have the skills and the technical tools and access to all the literature and our learnings, we can accelerate that. So that's our path to success through that.
Earlier on, you were talking about case studies and success stories.
Yes,
Is there a case study that you can share where you are seeing that AI adoption or advanced technology adoption when it comes to the mining industry?
So, a great example for me would be something like Kumba. Kumba, if you imagine a mine, the biggest challenge is Natasha arrives, she has to get onto a particular equipment that she drive, but how do we know she's safety accredited at all? And it's different equipment, because you might be driving a tipper today, you might be driving a vehicle, and different people come in and out. So these contracts coming out. So what we're facing is, from a health and safety, if the person's not certified in terms of the equipment, can't drive that, could create risks. So, we kind of worked with one of our partners out of our marketplace, and we showed them the ability of a thing called Passport 360. What this basically did is allowed you to basically have a passport for the equipment to use in the mine. So ability to pick up a cup, in this analogy, but the ability to do anything in the mine requires you to be certified, and that's hard to track. But once you create digital technologies, you can connect that, and you can actually give that person the right to operate. So it empowers the individual to want to learn and grow. But from the organization perspective, in this case Kumba, they knew that someone using that equipment was qualified, was safe. So it reduces the entire risk for the environment, for everyone, and creates a much better. So those are simple examples, but often, Sasha, it's in the simplicity that you create the beauty of safety, and impact. So cool.
If you had to imagine a world in which we future-proof the mining industry and what that idea means, what does that look like for you?
So I imagine a mining industry where digital transformation is leading the way. It's allowing people to have access to information to make better decisions, where there are decisions around the production of their ore body, or the extraction thereof, or the manufacturing piece of extraction, or the health and safety piece in terms of how healthy people. But even more importantly, we as Microsoft, as you know, are very committed to sustainability. They need to understand the impact in the environment, not only from a water, waste, but biodiversity impact. And those are big issues, because if you ruin the biodiversity environment, you ruin the sustainability of the communities that live around it. So those things, so I imagine a world where we have access to this knowledge set. We have this, people are skilled, can interact with this technology, can use it to make themselves more efficient. And we talk of co-pilot in our business, because it's not an autopilot. It's you with technology enabling you to be successful. So we love the concept of a co-pilot, because we want you to be the owner of that and drive it. So we imagine that AI is infused in everything you do, because it's giving you the right insights, saying that particular individual has no glasses in a dangerous place. Help them not be unsafe. Or here's ways in which we are processing through a smelt that this is how the electricity load can be optimized, reducing electricity usage, saving our environment. So all of these things can be connected. So the beauty of this canvas of technology that really stitches it all together into a beautiful canvas, but we need to bring people on board, we need to bring the regulators on board. So I imagine a world where all of these interchanges work together. The digital transformations happen, the AI embracement is happening, and AI is becoming a co-pilot. People are skilled and equipped. We see a regulation environment that works for us. We see environmental considerations being infused into everything we do. So we really start to see mining as a sustainable practice, which it's always been, but even more so with less environmental impact, with more safety operation, with better yields for these miners, because that's what we want. We want them to be successful, ultimately. And if they're successful, we as an organization will benefit from their success, and that's what we would love to do more of.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
For more insights, you can go to miningindaba.com.